Guild Wars 2's newest expansion, Visions of Eternity, released new elite specializations, so we finally get to try out new synergies and skills for each class. The most fun thing for me is discovering new playstyles and finding out if they can perform. But after a while of trying to optimize these builds, we often forget the reason we wanted to try them out in the first place. This is why I'll be detailing 9 builds, one for each of all of the new elite specializations, which highlights the most fun or interesting new mechanics or interactions so that you can play through the story or explore the open world with a build that will help you enjoy the experience. I'll also be ranking each specialization on a tier list for which, in my opinion, are the most fun, so you can potentially decide what your new main is or try other classes out without going in blind. If you only want to play the meta, then check out the build list on guildgen.com, where that will be updated whenever possible. This video is just for fun. Now let's start out with the Luminary, which is the Guardian's new elite specialization. Luminary is a tank with tons of passive damage mitigation, easy access defensive boons, and stances that keep you alive with no animation. It can be a bit slow, but it's so survivable that you can go for the 2 most aggressive weapons, the Greatsword and Hammer, and still sustain through most situations. Light Aura is the theme here, and with the Sovereign of Light trait, you can detonate Light Aura by using Luminary skills, which are any skill that you can only access from the Luminary specialization. And detonating these Light Auras will cleanse, heal, blind, and deal damage to enemies. And you can constantly keep doing this if you're killing enemies back to back, because the F1 gives Light Aura with the Radiance traits, and it will count as a Luminary skill, and it recharges when killing an enemy. But the F2 also gives Light Aura, using a leap finisher in a light field will also give a Light Aura, and some of the stances will also give Light Aura. So the order of your skills is pretty important to optimize your Light Aura detonations, since the same skill that provides the aura cannot also detonate it. Also, the Radiant Forge has a specific combo if you want to get the most detonations, which is to start by entering Radiant Forge, which gives you Light Aura, then use the 3 skill, which will detonate the Light Aura, and then put down a Light Field. Press 2, which is a blast finisher, but this specific skill combo goes into Light Aura anyways. Press 2 again to get the detonation, then 4 before the Light Field disappears to get a leap finisher, and then 4 again to detonate it. Then you leave and go back to your normal skills. It sounds complicated, but it's quite face roll and quite fun. I'll give Luminary an A on the fun tier list because it gives that traditional paladin feel and enables some of my favorite weapons in the game to be useful. Now the Ritualist is the Necromancer's elite specialization, and this one can be quite squishy when out of Shroud, so Shroud generation is important. Luckily, it has built-in Shroud generation whenever you summon a creature, and the spirits you can summon will support you and peel enemies off you with stability and CC. Since many people are nostalgic for the Guild Wars 1 Ritualist, which had a big focus on spirits, I made a build that invests everything into the spirits. Spirits are not like minions, they are an extension of your character, so they get your stats and damage modifiers. But spirits cannot be attacked and don't deal many damaging conditions, so the only stats they really scale with is power and crit. So we go full Berserker and maybe a little Marauder to survive, and the happy side effect of this is that we can also deal pretty good damage with our character. But to fully invest in the spirits, we want to apply vulnerability and gain might from the Spite trait line. Unfortunately, quickness does not improve the speed that spirits attack, but the fury from the Spite Grandmaster trait is necessary since necromancers don't have easy access to fury. Otherwise, it's just all the spirit enhancing traits, and the trait that allows spirits to linger when you leave Shroud at the cost of life force. If you struggle to keep up your life force, then you can't have permanent spirits. Then you can take Eternal Life in Soul Reaping, but if you can keep your spirits up until they time out and you have to resummon them, then go for the crit trait instead. Then it's just ranged weapons that can apply fear and vulnerability to the target, which will help stack up the damage modifiers for the spirits while staying safe. Also, the new relic of the Mist Stranger is a great way to get healing on builds that hit quickly, and the spirits are an extension of you, so they also get that life stealing. In other words, this relic allows you to also have blood magic. In terms of fun, Ritualist is in the B tier for me because while the spirits are fun to use, Ritualist doesn't interact much with any of the existing Necromancer weapons, and there are better specializations to come. Next is the Galeshot, which is the Ranger Elite specialization. The Cyclone Bow is like a third weapon that you can enter at any time, which is great for triggering swap sigils and the skirmishing traits, but it takes arrows as ammo to use the Cyclone Bow skills, and once you use enough, you can use the burst skill, Hawkeye. This is pretty straightforward, so I went for a longbow build like my Untamed Archer build. I do think that the other build is better at creating the archer feel, but the Galeshot version is a bit more simplistic and a bit more mobile. So I went for the Shrike trait and Thrill of the Catch, which give extra ammo when you shoot a certain number of projectiles, and when you or your pet disable an enemy. Since pets get no extra survivability as a Galeshot, you want pets that are tanky and also use CC, so I chose the Aether Hunter and the Electric Wyvern, but anything that fits those two characteristics should work. Make sure to use the 2 skill first when swapping between Cyclone Bow and Longbow, so you get the quick draw cooldown reduction on your damaging skills, and otherwise just pew pew from afar. The second weapon is entirely optional as I don't really use it, but I go for Sword Warhorn in case I can't use projectiles for whatever reason. In terms of fun, Galeshot is in the A tier for me because the mobility utilizes the fast-paced combat of Guild Wars 2 pretty well. Although it does also have potential for melee weapon builds, the Cyclone Bow has a very prescribed way to play it, which if you like then it's good, but it could get old after a while. The Paragon is the Warrior's new elite specialization, and this one is another returning from Guild Wars 1. And having played both, they're pretty similar, although in Guild Wars 2 it's a bit more simplistic but also more flexible, since you can use it with many other weapons than just a spear. And since it's been a while since there was a Warrior Elite specialization that actually worked with condition builds, I went for a Condition Paragon build. But since there's no way that it could compete in terms of fun and power to a Condition Berserker, I went for a supportive version. Essentially, you upkeep the F2 chant, which happens automatically as you begin combat, and it just pulses tons of might for your team, and it allows you to deal more damage. And you keep up your motivation to keep pulsing this by using burst skills. But the tactics traits also support allies when hitting your burst skills, so just by performing the damage rotation, you'll be passively providing heals, cleansing, stability, might, fury, and protection to allies, which makes this really powerful when playing with others. So all you have to do is just pulse your F2, use your F1, then all your other weapon skills, F1 one last time before weapon swapping, then swap and F1 again, and just repeat. Big boons, big damage, and if you want alacrity for your allies, you can go for that instead, but this build doesn't really benefit much from it compared to just a flat damage modifier. In terms of fun though, Paragon doesn't really hit the mark for me, so I put it in the C tier. If you really look at everything that this specialization provides, there's no actual skill animations, just boons, shouts, and modifiers which are just stats. You could essentially copy-paste this class into a Dungeons & Dragons campaign because it's just numbers. Not that I dislike how Paragon interacts with the core warrior skills, it's just not that interesting. Evoker is the Elementalist specialization, and this is definitely interesting in terms of build diversity because you can choose between 4 attunement familiars, which give you an extra skill to use for a minimum of 4 new playstyles. Also, you can specialize further in one element by locking yourself to just that attunement with a trait. And this is obviously the most interesting interaction, even though ideally you probably don't want to lose access to the versatility of 4 attunements. The simplicity and specialization is pretty cool. So I decided to go for a Rabbit Air build with Scepter Warhorn because the Scepter skills are instant to charge up the familiar skill fast, and the Warhorn 5 is the big ticket skill that I want to keep recharging by repeatedly using the familiar skill. Since the Scepter and familiar skills are instant, you can just spam them and charge up the empowered familiar skill quite quickly, which deals a lot of damage. This build is pretty much just damage, but it lacks Fury uptime, so I go for the Relic of the Midnight King to trigger Fury on the Warhorn 4, since the crit is extremely important. It is quite a squishy build since you want to go full glass to maximize the zap you can do, but with the extra vitality from the water traits and constantly blinding and applying weakness with the Scepter 3, you can still survive. You can also swap one of your utilities depending on the situation. I was using Cleansing Fire for more Condition Cleanse, but you can go for Armor of Earth or Arcane Shield if you'd like. While I do like the Evoker and how many builds that it potentially creates, the class is really just one button, so I give it a B tier for fun. Nothing special compared to all the other LE specializations. The Amalgam is the Engineer specialization, and this one has unique tool belt skills that you can select instead of having them attached to your utility skills. Amalgam is also just naturally tanky, so you can afford to go for a high damage build or build defenses and become unkillable. I took all of the big damage tool belts or morph skills, and then the trait that recharges them when I evolve, which gives you stats and extra effects based on your tool belt choices. Then I take the trait that recharges evolve when disabling an enemy, and River's Relic for alacrity on dodge, so that I can basically use my morph skills as often as possible, because to me those are the fun skills to use. So to get more CC, I take Mace Shield because the Shield 5 can trigger multiple instances of cooldown reduction from blocking multiple attacks and then throwing it. And the Mace 2 gives regeneration and vigor to allow more dodges for more alacrity and regeneration. Also gives more power from the Invention's traits. Also, disabling enemies will cleanse and heal due to the Bunker Down trait, so I get even more survivability from spamming CC. Essentially, you want to use all your morph skills, evolve, then use them again, spam CCs, which you also get damage from, and dodge to recharge your cooldowns. That's pretty much it. You don't even need kits on this build, but you could take Bomb Kit if you wanted. In terms of fun, Amalgam is in the S tier, because the animations are big and meaty, there's options for different playstyles, and everything fits into the existing Engineer theme so well, while also changing up the mechanics in an interesting way. But next is the Troubadour, which just means Bard, and it's the Mesmer specialization. The new instruments which replace shatter skills have interesting and powerful effects, but what I found to be interesting or unique about it mechanically is that you can get a lot of CC since the drums and the flute both disable enemies, and you can double up on these effects with the call and response trait when you use them with 3 notes, which is the new resource for clones, and phantasms will generate 2 of those per use, one at the start and one when the phantasm finishes. Combined with the chaos trait Chaotic Interruption and the pistol trait in dueling, you can constantly recharge your weapon skills, which means more clone or note generation, which means more triple note shatters or musical instrument playing. This is a condition build mainly, so the flute is the main shatter skill, but the others can be used if you generate enough notes that it wouldn't prevent your next flute from being used immediately with 3 notes. Start with the pistol skills, then go into Axe 3, which puts you into melee range to use your flute to give out your burst conditions, then generate clones with Axe 2 and swap to staff, use a couple more shatters and crescendo, which is the F5 to get quickness, then start saving your notes for your next flute. Tail skills, which are the utility skills, can be used to gain extra notes after their respective instrument, and Jenna's tail can be used to ramp up your rotation faster. I like the Troubadour because I like the new Mesmer skills, I like characters and classes that are themed around music, and I like the interactions with existing Mesmer traits, but I'll only give it the A tier because it's a bit too close to the Virtuoso in design. Now the Conduit is the Revenant specialization, and it comes with lots of interactions with the other legend stances, as well as a new Raza legend stance, which has a cool mobility skill that leaps you to the targeted area like Shiro. But other than that, the new skills don't provide too much in the way of interesting mechanics. Most of them are just passive effects or stat boosts, and then extra mechanics that clutter the UI for no real payoff in the combat, which makes it kind of feel like a World of Warcraft class. So I'll just come right out and say I'm putting this in the D tier for fun, but regardless, if I wanted to find a fun way to play it, I would probably go with a Condition Malix Raza Conduit with Spear and Mace Axe, and just go for maximum condition damage scaling from Corruption and Invocation traits, because the Raza stance acts like a secondary condition applying stance, unlike the other stances, besides maybe the Callous stance, which is only available for Renegades. Hex Eater Vortex, which is a skill from the Raza stance, is a great condition application, and with the Mistfire trait, you can burn enemies that you disable, There's quite a lot of CC synergy on the new specializations, but what is new here is that you can use the Cosmic Wisdom, which is the F3 with Malik Stance, and it will reduce the cost of your Malik's utility skills while increasing their cooldown. So what you can do is right before leaving Malik Stance, you can Cosmic Wisdom and then use all of the skills with low cost, and then swap out since you're not going to use their cooldowns while you're in the other stance anyways. This allows some good burst condition application, and combined with the spear, you can pull enemies together and bomb them all with the conditions while being extremely survivable with the Trailblazer stats. And you can heal from the new Biomancer relic that heals whenever you poison or bleed enemies, which we can apply with our sigils. If you think you found a more fun build than this for Conduit, absolutely let me know in the comments, but I feel like there wasn't much else I could work with that I couldn't just do better on the other Revenant specializations. And lastly, there's the Antiquary, which is the Thief specialization. This one is crazy with gambling, powerful game-breaking mechanics, and a lighthearted theme of a script burgling artifacts. Stealing gives you random artifacts from a set of several skills that you can use which have various effects and attacks applied to them. But there are also unique bonuses for using them, like allowing you to use sneak attacks while not in stealth, so you can do 3 backstabs in a row, or refunding initiative on your next few weapon skills so you can do a huge burst of mobility with shortbow, or recharging your next utility skill. There's also backfire effects for using Antiquary utility skills that allow you to use them before the recharge finishes at the risk of it backfiring. But backfiring can sometimes be beneficial. I chose to use Axe Dagger because it's the weapon set that can give the most value from initiative being refunded, sneak attacks being enabled, and having other skills to use in between the axe bursts, since you're going to be using a lot of these artifacts. I also use the Stone Summit Cannon, which is a heavy burning attack at range. It's one of the Antiquary utility skills, but if it backfires, it does the burning attack in melee range, and that can also hit you. But since you can dodge out of the way, that's not really that bad, and it'll just give you more damage to the target. So just keep spamming the Axe 2-2-3 combo and stealing artifacts and using Stone Summit Cannon in between. Because there are so many skills to use, quickness is pretty nice on this build, so I use the new relic of the Pirate Queen, which gives quickness on disable, and many of the artifacts as well as stealing due to the trickery traits will disable enemies and therefore give quickness to make the build flow more smoothly. I find the Antiquary to be an S in terms of fun because it's so unique, creates engaging stories by making it likely that you get screwed by random number generators, and the way that the thematic is expressed so closely by the mechanic because you have to improvise in the gameplay the same way that an Antiquary would while exploring an unknown crypt in search of treasure. Sure, it may not be the most competitive spec, but I said this was a fun tier list, and at the end of the day, that's what's important because you can get good at something suboptimal if you are motivated to practice it because you enjoy it. But if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe to see more fun and effective builds and commentary content. And I will see you all next time.